And getting in here a little bit early. We got feedback after the January event that if we get in here a little bit earlier, then we can help break down outside early, and then all of our interns and fellows and staff can be in here for the start of the program. So thank you very much for that, and welcome this evening to Reef Environmental Education Foundation. We're at our campus headquarters here in Key Largo, Florida, for our monthly Fish and Friends series. And our speaker this evening is the very magnificent Autumn Blum, talking about what it means to be a reef safe. Yeah, I see she's brought her fan group here as well. But before we get to that, we're going to do a couple of announcements. You know me, when I say a couple, it means there's going to be 6 or 7 announcements. But these are in chronological order, starting with the closest one coming up. This Saturday, February 15th, will be one of our famous SMILE workshops. This is an opportunity for you to learn how to be a volunteer diver with our Size Matters Innovative Length Estimates program, using cameras like the one, Britt, can you hold, or Carolyn's holding up this camera right here. If you haven't seen one in real life or been able to dive with one, it's a camera that's got a laser mount on it, and by taking pictures with the laser of certain fish, it helps add data to important research. So the workshop is a brief, Carolyn, how long is the workshop? An hour or so workshop here in this very room, and in the afternoon, there's a 2-tank afternoon dive with Key Dive. So there's the QR code to register, and Carolyn's right back there if you want to have some more information. And it's free. Free. There's a deposit, but it is free. Yeah, okay. Cool. So then our next Fish and Friends is March 11th. And is Jack here? Where's Jack? I thought he was coming. Jack Grove? Maybe he was outside, but our next Fish and Friends speaker will be Dr. Jack Grove, talking about Galapagos fishes. And this is going to be a really interesting, fascinating talk. So I hope you will all join us either here in person or online. March 18th is this is an online only program. It's a Fish-N-R, which is a about an hour or so deep dive into a particular kind of marine creature, or usually a fish, but this one happens to be invertebrates and algae. And the one just in February, just 2 weeks ago, on the TWA lookalikes. Who is anybody on that one? It was really cool. So if you've ever wondered, how do you tell the jackknife from the hi-hat from the spotted drum? Thank you. These are your people to talk it through with. So if you've had questions about Eastern Atlantic and Mediterranean invertebrates, who's presenting that one? Is it Christy Simmons is presenting that directly. So that was one you will not want to miss. They're all recorded, so you can get them later. Moving forward in time, in April, it feels like it's just around the corner. We're having our Florida Keys Lionfish Derby and Arts Festival. Those who follow us may remember this was originally scheduled for a little bit later in the year, but we're moving it forward to April. The Derby teams registration is open. Meet, how many teams do we have registered so far? 5. So if you've got your team together, you want to go hunt some lionfish and be part of our Derby, please go online. I don't see the website up here, but if you go to reef.org/lionfish or something like that, you'll find it. On Sunday, the 27th, will be the festival here on our campus. For the first time, we're going to be stretching the event throughout. The new building won't be open yet, but we'll be in that space as well. And we'll also combine elements of the Arts and Science Festival that we had last year into one big, fun, family-friendly trucks, games, activities, as well as watching all those lionfish come in. There's a huge pile of them at the end. The prizes for the biggest and the smallest and the most and all that kind of stuff. So please follow that. And finally, we're going to open our new building. Yay! The grand opening weekend is June 7th and 8th, and you can find details at reef.org/OEC grand opening. This is on the 7th, which is Saturday, is when the ribbon cutting. The activities are going to kick off around 3 p.m. So we'll have lots of things to do, guided tours and dissections and all kinds of fun things in the new building, as well as some food and other kinds of activities. On the Sunday, the 8th, is our Fish Out of Water 5K. That's not really up here yet, but if you've ever been part of our virtual Fish Out of Water 5K, we're going to do it like in real life this time. Fun run walk in the neighborhood here for that. So again, information online. Just one last, not a specific date related, but as I said, the Smile workshop is this Saturday. We also just want to make sure everybody knows we have this non-diving volunteer opportunity to contribute to citizen science, helping create an AI training data set for the Smile project and for the Grouper Spotter project. This can be done from anywhere. There's that QR code will take you a place where you could sign up and get some more information, but it's a really cool opportunity to help the machine get smarter at things that matter to us as humans. So I hope you'll all check that out if that's interesting. Finally, not finally, but we just want to recognize that today is International Women in STEM Day, in Science, Technology, Engineering, and Math. And if you follow us on social media, which I hope you do, you'll have seen some of these fun pictures of my amazing colleagues, and it's such a thrill to be part of this community of smart women making a bit of difference in the world. So we appreciate, yeah, let's give a round of applause for that. And who's this? Is that? Oh, our intern from last summer. Yeah, that's me over there. And thank you to Mead, actually. He was the one who said, we should put a slide for International Women's Day. And I'm like, yeah, so that kind of support. Okay. So next, as we usually do, want to open the floor for community announcements quickly. And Ken, I know you have one. I'm just going to ask you to speak into this microphone so that it picks up for the folks online as well.
All right. Yeah. So my name's Ken Niedermeyer, and I'm the Chief Cook and Bottle Washer at Reef Renewal. We're having a fundraiser, a friend-raiser at the Ocean Encounters facility in Marathon on February 28th, which is a Friday night. There is a fee to get in, but there's going to be some bands, there's food, there's drinks. I'll be there. But it's really, because I think most people don't even know we exist, because we don't spend a lot of time talking about ourselves. We just spend a lot of time doing what we set out to do. Yes. So if you are interested in going, I have several of these. There's a QR code on the back, gives you more information, and we'd love for you to attend. I think it's from 7 to 10. That's down in Marathon. It's a bit of a drive for us Northern Keys people, but it will be worth your time, and you'll have a good time. So if you want one of these, just ping me. All right. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other community announcements? Melissa has one, our speaker from last month.
On Friday, if anyone wants to come out to the CRF nursery with us, we have an active coral nursery tour. You can clean nursery trees and maybe even transplant some corals. We'll see what happens. So if you want to come, sign up.
All right.
Rainbow Reef. Oh, yeah.
Rainbow Reef. That's another opportunity. Okay. Any other community announcements? I want to say thank you to our volunteers as usual for the amazing snacks. Thank you, and helping all that stuff. And this week in particular, did everybody get this insert in your Keys Weekly magazine? Did you see it, the unsung hero? Did you see a familiar face inside? Fred Hartner right there. We were pleased to nominate Fred Hartner as a volunteer with the Unsung Heroes program that the Community Foundation of the Florida Keys does. I had the pleasure of going with him and Laura down to Key West on Friday for a luncheon to celebrate them. So please make sure that's him right there. He looks a little different in the thing. But please check this out, not only for Reef volunteers, but for all the volunteers in our community. I know everyone that works with nonprofit or other kind of organization that relies on other people's free help to get important stuff done. It's an amazing thing to celebrate. So we're really happy about that. Also, thank you to the rest of my colleagues, the staff here on campus, the ones that you saw as interns and fellows helping with the check-in and running the live stream here. It's a team sport that we're doing here on campus. So thank you. Okay, last but not least, if you're not already on this newsletter, I think signing in today will get you on it, but there's a QR code. We have a newsletter that's just about local events happening here in Key Largo. So I hope you will join that and stay tuned. All right, now Fish and Friends is pleased to welcome to our stage Autumn Blum on what it means to be reef safe. I first heard her speak a few years ago when she came and gave a keynote speech for the Upper Keys Business and Professional Women's Anniversary Dinner, and was just enthralled to hear her personal story as well as the mission that she's undertaken for all of us. So I'll let you introduce any more about yourself that you like, but please help me welcome Autumn to our stage.
Zoom calls, you walk in, you start sharing this brilliance, and they're like,
You're on mute.
and I'm like, I'm done here. I'm done. That was all of it.
Places with you.
Is the sound okay? Is it on? Right on. Awesome. Well, thank you, Jill, and thanks everybody for coming tonight. It's really exciting, an honor. I don't want to hang on to it because then I have something to do with my hands. All right, I'll put it in my back pocket. It's in my back pocket. We're good. All right. Anyway, it really is a pleasure to be here. I love the organization. I know there's many friends in the room, and it's great to see those of you and those that I don't know yet. Hopefully we'll leave friends. I'm going to move on. We're going to talk about not necessarily what it means to be reef safe, because I don't really understand what that means. And I think I probably have studied that more than most people in this world. So we're going to talk about what it means to be reef safer, which is what we say on our products and in our world. I'm Autumn. I'm the chief bottle washer and cook. I like that. I'm going to use that again. I am an entrepreneur. This is my second skincare company. I'm a cosmetic chemist. I've been manufacturing natural skincare for almost 30 years now. And my background is in organic and cosmetic chemistry, environmental geology, but making natural skincare for my entire career. I had sold my first skincare company, and what's a girl to do that's been working like a crazy person for 15 years? Well, she goes diving. So I'm diving in Palau, and if you haven't been there, highly recommend. It was the most spectacular reef I'd ever been to. The colors were vibrant, the life, it was amazing. And I'm coming up from this spectacular dive, and as I get closer, I see a rainbow. I'm like, oh, look, how pretty. And then I see a group of snorkelers, and it's like emanating from their body, and I'm like, oh shit, this isn't good. And I realized it was sunscreen coming off their body. I get on the boat, and my friend is over on the dive deck, and she's washing off, and these pearlescent, voluminous suds are just running right overboard. And I'm imagining Nemo down there below, just gasping, exactly, doing all of that. So as a cosmetic chemist and a diver, I learned to dive in the Keys when I was a kid, love this place. That was the first time that I really thought about how the products I had been making for the last 15 years could impact not just our bodies. Natural products, cosmetic chemists, I'd always thought about that, how the ingredients would impact us. But it was the first time I thought about how these ingredients would impact the environment. Nobody's talking about reef safe yet. This was back in 2014. It wasn't a buzz. It wasn't a thing yet. By the time I came home from that trip, I had written the business plan for Stream to Sea. It was a really long flight. So that was the impetus behind Stream to Sea. So what is reef safe or reef safer? It's important to understand there is no mutually agreed term to define what is reef safe. I will tell you what I think it is, but that's very different from what some other brands, other companies, other NGOs, and even governmental organizations might say reef safe is. There's no one mutually agreed definition. So we have the only products in the world that are tested and proven safe for freshwater fish, saltwater fish, and even some coral larva studies. But I still don't really feel comfortable with the term reef safe because we haven't done crustaceans, we haven't done microalgae, phytoplankton. Who knows, right? I think where the reef safe is. Reef safer, right? All right, anyway. I think the science is very important. And I know preaching to the choir in this room, our reefs obviously need our protection. It's getting hammered from all fronts. You can get very fatalistic very quickly when you go hanging out there sometimes, but I really do believe in hope and change, what Ken's doing, what Reef is doing. And I'm one of those people that believe that small steps do add up. And I think if you have the opportunity to do better, you have the obligation to do better. Once you know knowledge is power, you have to do something. And that's really where I go along with this. Personal care products, you don't have to. You don't have to use toxic crap, so don't. So then you say, does it really make a difference? The ocean's big and blue. Does what I put on my body actually make a difference? And I'd like to convince you that yes, it can. It does and can, especially in a place like Molasses Reef, where you have thousands of people going in the water. So NOAA in 20 2016, hasn't been updated since then, estimated that up to 14,000 tons of sunscreen enter U.S. reefs each year. It's a whole lot of sunscreen, right? And that's from tourism activities alone. That doesn't take into account what washes down our drains. We'll talk about that. Oxybenzone, octinoxate, parabens. Many of these ingredients have been shown over and over again to be highly toxic in very small, environmentally relevant concentrations. It does not take much to do a lot of damage. How much? 62 parts per trillion is the minimum amount that's been shown to prevent coral, to basically deform coral larvae to the point that it's inert. 62 parts per trillion, the equivalent of 1 drop in 6 Olympic-sized swimming pools. So it's really, really tiny amount, will prevent coral larvae from being viable. Doesn't take much. These ingredients also bioaccumulate, which means that if you put some in, you put some in, you put some in, it doesn't just biodegrade, it just hangs out. You have that cumulative effect. And these ingredients are all endocrine disrupting chemicals. So in 2015, remember I came back from that trip 2014, did all of my studies. 2015, end of 2015, Dr. Craig Downs published a study showing that 62 parts per trillion was enough to kill coral larvae. He also did some surveys to show how much of these ingredients are actually in our waters, and it's pretty significant. And the media paid attention, and Times Magazine paid attention, lots and lots of attention. Then there was lots of science. So since that point, there's literally thousands of studies that have shown that various ingredients in sunscreens and skincare are highly toxic and do bioaccumulate and do hang out in our waters. So there's no question anymore, are they bad? We know. The same reason, natural products, cosmetic chemists, I think about how it hurts our coral, but you got to think about the human side as well. The reason these ingredients harm the aquatic environment is the same reason we really shouldn't put them on our bodies, because they're all endocrine disrupting chemicals. What does that mean? It means it screws with your hormones. So it messes with the development, messes with the growth. Other things that are endocrine disruptors are BPAs in plastics, phthalates in fragrances, UV filters, fertilizers. I also like to share it's more than just sunscreen. I love that people are paying attention to their sunscreen. There's a whole lot more shampoo and conditioner and things like that that are being thrown into our waters than just sunscreen alone. And those ingredients can be, those products can be pretty loaded as well. So it's important to learn the ingredients. We have these great little cheat sheets. There's some cards up there before you leave. Please grab one. So it looks like this, and it shows various ingredients that have been shown. They're not the only offenders, but they're kind of the worst and they're the most common. So it's a real easy cheat sheet. You can grab your sunscreen, you can grab your shampoo, read the back. If it has these ingredients on it, please don't use it near the waters and maybe don't buy it again.
And water treatment facilities would not
do not filter these out. Thank you. Do water treatment facilities filter these out? They absolutely do not. The particulates like the zincs and the titaniums, they can filter those out. But what they don't filter out is a lot of those organic UV filters. And when I say organic, I'm not talking about like organic tomatoes. I'm talking about like petrochemical organic chemicals. I have to be clear about that too. So Dr. Craig Downs, one of his common phrases that I've kind of stolen is sunscreen pollution is a symptom of unsustainable tourism. Where you have people, you have sunscreen. Where you have sunscreen, you've got aquatic damage, right? So think about all these people that we're all being told to apply and reapply and reapply. In another talk, I can talk about how, and we're spraying it and that stuff's just going everywhere and going down in the wind. So after they did these initial studies, they then said, well, how much actually is in the waters? Is it hanging out? And they went and they did these surveys. They started with Hawaii, and you can see up there in Honolulu Bay, that's the tip. That's it's a fairly protected area, but it does have ingress egress. 1,900 parts per trillion. That was the average of 3 different times throughout the day. 1,900 parts per trillion. There were some areas like Hana. I mean, you're not going swimming in Hana. That's some pretty serious water. They didn't find any there. But up like in the areas where there's a lot of snorkelers, there's a lot of sunscreen. Again, remembering 62 parts per trillion was the minimum toxic dose. And you've got 1,900 at 3 different sampling types throughout the day. Virgin Islands, even a magnitude higher. Yes, ma'am.
Do you know if these samples were taken at the surface or at any sort of depth?
They were taken within the top 10 feet. It was within the top. I don't think it was just on the surface, but they went like just right under. It was sampled from the surface. Great question. The question was the sampling done like at depth or on the surface? And it was like within the first arm's reach level because they were snorkeling. So the next one is Trunk Bay in the Virgin Islands. Similar, even an order of magnitude higher. I'm missing the slide with Bahia National Park, which was similar to Trunk Bay with the amount of sunscreen pollution is in the water. So again, we know it's toxic, we know it's there. And as you mentioned, wastewater treatment facilities don't filter it out. It comes from more than just tourism. So it's awesome when people say, yeah, I only use safe products when I'm going snorkeling or going diving. That's great. However, sunscreens are regulated as drugs. They're regulated as drugs by the FDA because they work inside of our body, right? Once you put it on your skin, within 30 minutes, it's detected in your urine. Filters right through, goes down the wastewater treatment facility. The wastewater treatment facility doesn't filter it out, and off it goes anyway. So it's coming from more than just one application or one area, beach showers as well. These ingredients are being detected everywhere in nesting birds. They're finding significantly high concentrations of various UV filters in the eggs of the nesting birds. Sea turtles as well, they're finding them in the turtles as well as in the shells. Finding it in the game fish that they're eating predominantly in Hawaii, oddly enough. They're finding really high concentrations in the fish in Hawaii. Anybody know Dr. Bill Precht? He's a pretty cool guy, cool guy. He sent me this picture pretty early on when he found out that I was studying sunscreens. He uses our products, and he was bringing a group of snorkelers out on the reef to do a coral survey. And one of them, he provides our sunscreen for them. One of them says, no, I have an allergy. I'm going to use mine. It was Sergi, and she hand planted this coral. I mean, she didn't mean to. I mean, she's a nice kid. She didn't mean to, but she hand planted it. A week later, he came and he's like, you can see that handprint right smack dab in the middle. So as we've been vocal about the issue, places around the world that rely on the reefs for tourism and for the economy have been paying attention. And there's been quite a few legislative bans. I'm pleased to say that every place in the world that has reviewed the science has voted to enact a ban. It's pretty cool, every single one of them, if they go through the science, not just the politics of it. And the politics are pretty significant. So the only somewhat exception to that is Key West, that did vote to enact the ban. But the state of Florida, because of politics and lobbying activities, their sunscreen is a big industry in the state of Florida. They overturned it, they preempted and said that it's not legal for Key West to say no when Florida says yes, so they can still sell it there. But education is a really powerful motivator, and I don't think there's a boat in Key West that doesn't include it in their briefing now, so we are making change there too. So then people will just say, okay, it's really bad and it's endocrine disruptor, so I'm just not gonna wear sunscreen at all. Well, I would like to counsel you not to do that too, because, and I will say, I didn't wear sunscreen until I started making it. Education, knowledge is bliss, whatever. Education, but I didn't like it because it burned my eyes and I wasn't happy with sunscreen. I do wear mine now, which is why I'm so pale. But skin cancer is the most common malignancy in the world. It is growing at a faster rate than any other cancer out there. 20% of Americans will get skin cancer before they're 70. It's pretty significant. Anybody know how Bob Marley died? Skin cancer. Jimmy Buffett, skin cancer. It's serious. It's a serious thing, and sunscreen does protect you from cancer. So the answer is not to not wear it. The answer, in my opinion, is wear UPF clothing, right? Cover up, and apply a safe sunscreen to your exposed skin only. That's the way to do it. Now, I sell sunscreen, so maybe that's not the smartest thing, but, but wear UPF clothing. That's the way to go. So there's two different classes of sunscreens. And again, remembering sunscreens are regulated as drugs, right? They're regulated as drugs because you have the two different kinds. They work inside your body. So most of us grew up using the typical, and I don't like the word chemical because I think everything's chemicals, but you've got the chemical absorbing sunscreens and the mineral reflecting sunscreens. The way they work, so the typical sunscreen, you apply it to your skin 15 to 30 minutes prior to exposure. And that's so those organic chemicals have time to soak into the fatty layers of your body where they absorb the UV radiation, your body converts it to heat and filters it out eventually, right? Soaks into your skin, absorbs UV radiation, filters it out. The way that a mineral sunscreen works is it creates a reflective layer on top of your skin, reflects the radiation away from your body, the majority of it anyway. If you're trying to protect yourself from radiation, the concept of reflecting makes a lot more sense to me than the concept of absorbing. I do think that one. The chemical sunscreens are less expensive. They're really easy to apply. You can take a big old slab of it. You can smear it on. I got too much here, Paul. I'm going to put some on you too, right? It's easy. Mineral sunscreens do take a little bit more effort. They are a little bit more expensive, but they're also more concentrated. Because they're regulated by the FDA regulates everything that you say on the package. So we say apply liberally. We have to say apply liberally. I do not want you to apply. Don't do it. Don't do it, man. They're going to make fun of you on the boat. Don't do it. Don't do it. All right. So blue washing is rampant. You cannot just trust what's on the front of a label. Again, this goes back to my definition versus his definition versus someone else's. I was in the Virgin Islands where I was testifying there for their ban, which they did ban. They banned all 3 O's. They didn't want to ban all chemical ingredients. So they banned oxybenzone and octinoxate. And based on science, I convinced them that maybe they should ban octocrylene. But the really cool thing is, if you don't use any of those 3, you can't make a sunscreen. So awesome. They did it.
Nice.
All right. Thank you. Thank you. I was kind of proud of that one. So this formula here said that it was biodegradable and it had all this Reef stuff on it. And it has octocrylene and benzophenone. Well, everybody at this point is thinking about oxybenzone. What is oxybenzone? Well, it's benzophenone. Benzophenone. So rude. That's rude. This one said that it was Reef friendly on here, but when you look at it, it had 33% chemical UV absorbers. Avobenzone, oxybenzone is banned. Avobenzone is not. Anybody want me to draw the molecular structure? It's not very different. It just hadn't been banned yet. All right, so you have to flip it over and read those ingredients. Use your little cheat sheet. I even go so far as to say that not all minerals are created equal. You want to avoid the nanoparticles. And if it says clear zinc on it, you might as well use the chemical stuff. Everybody wants a really light sheer product. I get it. But the clear zinc is basically nano, even if it says non-nano. Even if it says non-nano on it. If it says clear, what it is, it's nanoparticles. That's how you make zinc less white. You make the particle, it's a big like spiky, spiny structure. And you just make it really tiny. And then if you want to make non-nano clear zinc, you take these little tiny molecules and you smush them all together, you agglomerate it into a big one that if you look at them, but what's going to make that agglomerate disassociate?
So my Neutrogena clear.
Sorry, sister. Sorry. I apologize. Sorry. If it's clear, don't do it. All right. Yeah, don't do it. Because it is an aquatic toxin. They are considered highly toxic with long-lasting effects to the aquatic environment. It's marketing fluff. Okay, so science. So I came back from this trip and I said that I'm going to make this Reef safer, natural sunscreen, body care products. I wanted to do no harm. The goal is to do no harm. So I know how to make shampoo that's not going to burn your eyes. I don't need bunnies, right? I know how to make a body lotion that's not going to hurt a kid. But how do you make a shampoo or a sunscreen that's not going to hurt fish or coral? Nobody's doing it. Nobody's talking about it. You don't have all this history and all these ingredients. It's unknown. So we collaborate with Eckerd College. We did some work over at Tropical Research Station with Moat. Smithsonian Institution did some work with us. And we started with C. elegans. I didn't know what C. elegans is. I'm a cosmetic chemist, you guys know this stuff better than I do. But we started with C. elegans. And then we worked up to the freshwater fish, saltwater fish, ultimately coral larvae. And I will say that my first trials completely failed. So I made these beautiful products that I'm really proud of, and they're Whole Foods compliant, they're EcoCert compliant, and I send them off, and it's like 100% mortality. I'm like, oh God. All right, so I cried like a little girl, pulled up my pantyhose, and went back to the drawing board and figured out, I had to do it with a different perspective. And we had to do testing. Let me tell you how much slack we've gotten from like PETA and some of these organizations, Leaping Bunny, because I tested on animals. I test on fish. I've tested on coral, right? Some people are even saying it's illegal because of the animal testing bans. And I'm all for animal testing bans. Please don't test on bunnies. But what if I hadn't done this? What if we hadn't? What if I had made these beautiful natural products and said, here, they're safe, but they weren't. So I learned through the process that just because something is safe for us does not mean that it's safe for our waters, right? They're different. Fish are different from us. Coral are different from us. Yes, ma'am?
So why doesn't every cosmetic company do these tests? Why is it just expensive?
Well, number one, it's expensive. It's expensive. I don't think, why doesn't all of the companies, right? Why doesn't all of the skincare and cosmetic and sunscreen companies that are making the claims, I like to say that they're making the claims, why are we the only ones that have this test data? Maybe other companies have done it, but nobody's sharing their data out there. And when I walk around, like I remember going to the sunscreen symposium, which is like where all the chemical people are, and they're all having these signs saying reef safe, reef safe. And I'm like, okay, cool, great. You've got a reef safe product. Can I see your testing? And they're like, what? Well, it's zinc, it's titanium, it's safe. And I'm like, no, No, it's not. And I would go up and ask the next one. And they're like, next, can I help you over there, sir, in the blue hat, right? They would just completely ignore me. Yeah. Anyway, so yeah, I am. Yeah. So I have trouble sleeping at night. These are the things that I think about. Why don't more companies do it? I don't know that they even think about it. We are one of the few manufacturers of our branded products. So if you look at sunscreen is manufactured primarily by 5 plants around the country. We got 14,000 tons. I mean, that's a lot of sunscreen out of 5 little plants. We're one of 2 that I'm aware of small independent sunscreen manufacturers, because I had my products being made initially at these plants and I sent them off for testing and we were failing with cross-contamination. So you know how like if you buy a protein bar, it says maybe manufactured in a facility that contains peanuts? I think they should do the same thing with skincare and cosmetics, because I was finding parabens in my formulas. The first ones that were failing with product toxicity, I'm like, wait, why? And it was honestly, the first round was because we had benzophenones and parabens because of cross-contamination. It wasn't in super high concentrations, but we've learned it doesn't take super high concentrations to kill. So I'm one of those people. I go back and I built a manufacturing plant, and you would see me on the dive boat a whole lot more if I didn't. So we made our original water sport formula, which somebody had asked if it still stains the boats. Sorry about that. The tinted sunscreen will absolutely stain something white. The tinted will. So the original water sport, this is our tried and true and still our #1 seller. This is the one where if you over apply it, you're gonna look kind of silly. Look silly. However, it's also the one that if you put it on the morning and you're not the type of person that's going to reapply in the afternoon, you go do a bunch of reef surveys and you're hanging out doing service skills and such, it's not going to burn your eyes, it's not going to make your mask slip, not going to hurt the fish, not going to hurt the coral. And if you forget to reapply, you're probably not going to be toasted. I do think you should reapply, because if your mask rubs it off, I don't want you getting burned on me. But seriously, water-resistant sunscreen. Yes, sir?
How does it affect the dive?
So the question was, how does the sunscreen affect the dive gear? Yeah, it can leave a little white smudge on it, but it doesn't hurt it at all. And if you get it on your mask, a little bit of soap and water comes right off. So same thing with your skin. You put this stuff on, at the end of the day, you need some soap and water to get it off. Right. It takes some. So we made the tinted formula to basically minimize that whitening effect. It does a pretty good job, but if you have white towels and such or white rash guards, it does get off on there. Yes, Randy?
And it's the only one for the dog.
And it is the only one that is safe for the dogs. So zinc is not safe for dogs, right? So oxybenzone is not safe for dogs, but some people will say that because it's a mineral sunscreen, you can use it on your animals. Zinc is also toxic for dogs.
Wait, you put it on
So there's some dogs like pitties and such that have the little white noses, right? They get the white noses or the white skin, and you want to protect them too. And the ones that are marketed to pets are god awful. They really are bad. I mean, they're bad. I love the animals more than I love most people. But sorry,
We're right.
inside voice, not outside voice, right? But yeah, so this one is safe for the animals as well. So going on and on. It will not hurt them if you wear it. They need quite a bit of it. They need a bunch. Just don't coat your dog with zinc, because it's not good for them. So years forward, everybody wants to have a product that's less whitening. I won't use zinc because every single trial that I've seen with zinc kills fish. Zinc acidifies the environment. If you put it into a beaker with water, spin it, spin, it starts to acidify. And that's why in my mind, why I was failing most aquatic toxicity tests. Even the non-nano zinc was failing it.
We put it in our boats.
Yeah, right? Yeah, exactly. Nothing grows. Yeah, nano, bad news. Okay, well, we'll talk about that in my next career. Let me finish up with sunscreen first. We'll work on that later. Okay, all right. So eventually I go to that sunscreen symposium and I'm seeing this one zinc booth that says Reef Safe all over it. And I go over and I'm like, yeah, dude, okay, show me some science. And he did. He gives me this whole deck and complete access. And what they did with this zinc was, instead of, it's coated with a castor wax. It reads really scary, polyhydroxystearic acid on our label, but that's the fancy word for castor wax and castor beans. So it's coated with that so it doesn't degrade into the acidified environment. But what it really does, he takes this really large molecule, and instead of making it small, he smushed it. So it's vapor compressed. So we've got this flat zinc molecule that is now light and sheer on your skin. It's not clear, but it's sheer. And now we're making zinc products as well that do not fail aquatic toxicity testing. Yay. EWG verified. Yeah. Wet boost. This one's kind of cool. So we made this formula, the everyday actives. which are much less whitening, much easier to apply. If you over apply, you don't have to over apply, but if you do, you don't look stupid. Really cool. So I wanted to make it as water resistant as the water sport, just less whitening. And I tried something a little different, and I sent it off for SPF testing, and a really cool thing happened. So when you send it off for water resistance, what they do is they put sunscreen on you, they irradiate you, 10 subjects, they pay people to go get irradiated. So they put sunscreen on the volunteers, they stick them in a bubble bath or a tank full of water, and it's bubbling. And for 10 minutes, they pull them out, you air dry, put them back in, 10 minutes for a course of 80 minutes. After 80 minutes, typically your water resistance, if you start off with an SPF 50, now it's an SPF 20 or 30. Usually lose about 50% of their performance after 80 minutes in the water. This one, we started off with like a 30 and we ended up at a 45. And I was like, hey guys, I'm paying you a lot of money. You screwed up. Go back and go check it out. And they were like, no, we did it 3 times. So because the water resistance is an oil and water and oil emulsion instead of just an oil and water, that's where I geek out. It actually is water activated. So we got a patent on this one. Pretty cool. Pretty cool. That has nothing to do with the reef, but it's just really neat. Well, it doesn't wash off, so that's a good thing. All right, so the next biggest question that we get often is, do you have an SPF 50 or an SPF 100? And I like when I have the opportunity to teach people that SPF is also marketing deceptive. It is, because people would think that an SPF 100 should be twice the protection of a 50. That makes sense, but that's not the way it works. So if you can spend, it's a measurement of time, not level of protection. So if you can spend 10 minutes in the sun without burning and use an SPF 50, theoretically, you can now spend 500 minutes in the sun without burning. Cool, right? Except you have to reapply every 80 minutes. So what difference does that make? Because most sunscreens will start to degrade once they're exposed to UV radiation. So, you got to reapply. The actual level of protection, so UVB, you've got UVA rays, aging, UVB rays, burning, right? The UVA rays are the ones that cause the cellular damage, the wrinkles and all that. The UVB rays are the ones that cause cellular damage as well, but those are the ones that are responsible for burning. With an SPF 30, it blocks about 97% of those UVB rays. Boosting up to an SPF 50, it's just about 98%. It's a little less than a 1% incremental increase in level of burning protection between a 30 and a 50. To go from a 50 to 100, again, is less than 1%. So what is important? Applying early, apply before you start to get burned. A lot of people will be out there in the sun. They're like, oh, I should probably put sunscreen on. Well, guess what? You're already burned. You're already burning. Glenn, buddy. We put it on before we leave the house. And then reapply. It was pretty good. It was pretty good. It was pretty good. So put it on early and then reapply. I always say, like at lunchtime, whether you think you need it or not, just go ahead and reapply a little bit more, and then you're probably good for the rest of the day if you're using a good sunscreen. That is more, an SPF 30 is more than enough for most people. I mean, if you're an albino, maybe you need a little more, but an SPF 30 really is enough for even a nice fair skinned person. Mineral sunscreens, again, apply them. This is with all mineral sunscreens, less is more. Don't apply so little that you don't have any protection on. Some people will just put a couple dots on and rub it until it's completely gone. It's not going to protect you. You do need to get some product on. I like the dot method, so you can just kind of dot it on and blend, makes it a whole lot easier. Or you can put some in your hands and you can kind of go press, 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 and then blend. What you don't want to do is go, right, get that sound and get a big old glob here and put that glob here, because it's not going to go anywhere, right? So dots work really well. It takes like an extra 30 seconds. It's so worth it. I'm just going to skip by. Obviously, we have other stuff. Don't skip the leave-in conditioner. All right, cool. So leave-in conditioner is, I mean, you can't really choose favorites. It's pretty good stuff. That is pretty good stuff. Yeah, so tested and proven as well. Yeah, leave-in conditioner. So this has more keratin and more panthenol in it than a keratin and panthenol formula typically would. It's really good for strengthening sun damage, and then detangling. If you have long hair and you haven't used it, you're missing out. There's some on the table over there. Help yourself. Okay. The shampoo and body wash too. That one's actually really good. A lot of people are using that to wash their wetsuits. It was harder to make a reef safer shampoo than it was to make a safe sunscreen. Shampoo is the hardest thing to make. It was really hard. So it is thin when you use it. It's a thinner consistency, because I found that the waxes and the thickening agents were actually pretty harmful. So it's a little thin. That doesn't mean it's less concentrated. Don't let the whole bottle squirt out on you. Okay, just sun and sting gel. I was diving in Aruba. I got into fire coral. Upside down, sorry. Apologize to the reef, but I got into fire coral. The dive guide comes swimming over. And he goes, wait, right? And he goes over to a brain coral. You may know this one, Ken. probably do. He went over to a brain coral, and at the bottom there's a little rocky ledge, and he collected some of the mucus that was gathering there. He rubbed it on my arm, and he counted to 10, and he went like this, and I'm like, nothing. I mean, I'm telling you, nothing. It was gone. So of course I'm obsessing over this all night long, obsessing, no sleep at all. The next day I'm out there on the reef diving, and I find some fire coral. I rub on it. And then I'm swimming around like an idiot looking for the brain coral, which I should have found first, and put it on, and it knocked it out. So it works. What's in this coral goo? I don't know. Well, FIU has some really smart coral scientists that had published a research paper on the enzyme concentration in the mucus of the brain coral. And I was able to replicate the pH of it, replicate the viscosity. I found some plant-based enzymes that were very similar, threw in some essential oils because it smells pretty. And I will tell you, the stuff works really good if you get into fire coral. Also jellyfish, fire ants, just any stinging cells, stuff's great. Defog is our #1 seller. When I launched it, my team's like, come on, we make sunscreen. We don't need to make defog. Like, I'm foggy, we need defog. we make a lot of defog. So this is what I really want to talk about, though. How much time are we at? Okay, all right, cool. This is what I really want to share with you about. This is our 10th year. So I'm sitting here thinking I started Stream to Sea to do no harm. It's a goal, do no harm. What if we could do good? What if you could actually take all those hordes of people that are on the beach and actually do some good out there? It's a good concept, right? So that was the idea behind it. And I have instructions. I have to take it out of my pocket. I have to turn my mic off. It's really short video.
When we talk about threats to our oceans and marine life, we often forget one of the most deadly: tourists. When we talk about threats to our oceans and marine life, we often forget one of the most deadly: tourists.
Lawmakers passed a bill Tuesday banning sunscreens that contain 2 specific chemicals that are believed to cause harm to marine life and coral reefs.
Every year, over 14,000 tons of sunscreen wash off us and into the sea, with over 80% of brands containing chemicals that are lethal for coral reefs. While some have removed chemicals from their sunscreens, Stream to Sea wanted to do more. So what if we turned the source of this invisible problem into the solution? Introducing Coral Care. In a world first, we partnered with leading marine and cosmetic technicians to create a sunscreen that's not only safe for coral, it actually feeds it. To a base formula that excluded all harmful ingredients and passed extensive aquatic testing, we also added a unique blend of marine nutrients proven to nourish coral and went into 6 months of coral testing. We discovered that Coral Care can boost healthy coral growth 50% more than the world's leading reef-safe sunscreens, and an incredible 21% more than Mother Nature alone. To take this initiative to the world, we also created a whole new classification. Not just SPF, but RPF, a way of identifying sunscreen that truly cares for coral, and a mark that hopefully someday all sunscreens will have to carry. At launch, with product sampling, social media activity, and global PR, we saw an incredible response.
When I first heard about Coral Care, I got really excited about how something could be changed from a negative to a positive.
Coral Care is now going global, partnering with government and tourism companies to help turn the tide on coral's future.
The world needs more concepts and products like Coral Care.
Coral Care with RPF, the little tube of sunscreen with enormous potential for change.
Did I do it right? Awesome. All right. Winning. Okay. So it was a good concept. Yes, ma'am.
So corals smell, and the things that corals smell.
Yes.
So how does the sunscreen
Well, so we didn't put everything in there that the coral scientists use. Right. Okay. So coral stinks. What you feed coral smells bad. So we're looking for, the idea is, could we put something in the sunscreen that could be good or beneficial for the coral? So I go out and I talk to some of these coral scientists, people that know way more about that than I do. We're looking at the different ingredients that they may possibly use to feed. And a whole lot of them, I ordered almost all that I could get my hands on. And a lot of them really do smell like dead fish. So we chose the ones that didn't. We also chose the ones that the FDA would allow us to put inside of sunscreen. So it's a concept. It's a concept, right? I mean, okay, in theory, we take our sunscreen, and I started with our original water sport. So again, we're going back to, it is a little bit of a whitening formula. It's not the zinc, this is our titanium. Why do I use titanium? Why do surgeons use titanium in our bodies, in our teeth? It is the most stable of everything out there. If I'm gonna start with something and we're gonna go subject some coral, I'm gonna set us up to win. So we started with the titanium formulas. We are now doing trials with the zincs, and we're getting good results, but that's a little ways in the future. So we put those ingredients in there, and it's like, okay, what is it now? So the PR company that I was working with, I say, okay, we've got it, and they're designing this package, and I've made this thing, and they immediately do this press release saying, we're saving the world, and we're gonna heal the coral and all this great stuff. And my name was all through it. I'm like, I will sue you. You put this out in the world with my name, and they're like, well, but we're gonna win awards. We're gonna do really good with this. We need this. They did that video, not my team. They did great stuff. And they said, well, what would it take for us to be able to make these claims? I said, well, science. Hi. You guys know this stuff. I mean, we need to do something, right? So started with our original Reef neutral sunscreen and added in pretty graphics, added in the coral nutrients, concept idea. Then we get to doing the actual testing. So they connected me with Professor Michael Sweet, who is he's a renowned scientist at the University of Derby in the United Kingdom. He's the advisor to the UN for all things coral and marine life. Pretty cool guy. Didn't believe it and set up a pretty rigorous trial and called me one day and was like, we're on to something pretty cool here. So he set up the most rigorous trials that have been done for sunscreen to date. So it was initially an 18-week study, 9 tanks, 4 different species, grew, measured the 3 metrics. And of the 4 species, we had no necrosis, nothing died, nothing negative. 3 showed very positive results. And I can't tell you the names of them. It's beyond my pay grade, but we do have it on our website. I'll try to memorize them soon. So these are some of the growth metrics that we had. This is the picture that I love. So picture tells 1,000, shows 1,000 words. What's the way to say that? How do you say that? A picture tells 1,000 words. Thank you. Okay, so this is the original control. And we have this nice little frag that's growing. And over 16 weeks, just given the seawater and the things that people would give coral to make them live, it grew. Expose it to my sunscreen, to stream to sea. And we grew. We didn't die. We didn't kill it, where I will tell you that 6 other sunscreens that did say that they were safe did kill it. So there was no growth. So I was happy with that. Coral care, on the other hand, it grew even more. And he did this multiple times, multiple tanks, multiple species, really cool stuff. So then I was like, okay, if you want to share, please do. Please do. Share. Be loud. Be loud. Thank you. Thanks. Yes, sir.
Is that in the typical parts per trillion that you're seeing at a tourist beach?
Yeah. So they went more on the Virgin Islands levels. So it's a little bit higher. It was in the parts per billion magnitude. So they took the environmentally relevant concentrations and went up a little bit more, a little higher on the concentration. They did, if you go on our website, you'll see some more of the data. So they did low trial and high trial, and the high trial did not perform as well as the low trial. We'll be honest on that one. So it wasn't a matter of like, let's give it a whole lot more, huge high dose and seriously stress it out, but relevant concentrations in the world responded really well.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you. It was pretty amazing. When they went away and started talking with Michael Sweet, I didn't hear from him for like a year. And I was like, all right, well, that project's done. That was fun. You know? And then they come back with all the data. I'm like, woohoo, all right. So what's next? What's the way to do it? So the organizations that we're talking with, said, this is pretty amazing. What if other brands could do it? I'm like, yeah, let's make some change. I mean, I love that my company's selling it, right? But wouldn't it be awesome if every single sunscreen out there had a reef protection factor to it? I think that'd be pretty amazing. So we're working on a standard that is getting traction. Because there is no mutually agreed term to what is reef safe, we're trying to create one. And we're creating it with people that are really good at this. So they've got a pretty rigorous trial. It is expensive. So will the indie brands do it? I hope so. I mean, it's possible. You just got to tighten your belt, suck it up, just do it. So there's 3 different levels. Our water sport sunscreen that you saw the results on will carry the bronze logo. So it's rigorous, and it means that we do no harm. The Coral Care will carry the gold logo, and the UN is seriously evaluating the documents, the papers they're putting together and the protocol on it, along with ICRI, and I'm really hopeful that they will sign off and approve on this. There are 8 different labs that are working on the accreditation to be able to, with Michael Sweet, to be able to offer these trials to other brands. So my hope is within the next few years, you'll see Coral Care out there, but you're going to see other brands as well holding these logos and other products, because it's more than just sunscreen. So thank you for your attention. I really appreciate it.
Whoa. I was going to say that's a lot to absorb.
It was a
But
lot
I
to
was
say.
actually that's a lot to reflect on.
Right on.
So thank you. Don't forget to tip your
So
waiters.
there's samples up there. Please don't make me take them home. I want you guys to have them.
I'm sure we've got questions. I'm going to bring the microphone back to people asking questions so that it gets captured for the.
Hi, I'm Michaela Peterson. I'm the Director of Education for Reef. Yes. So out of curiosity, the Pro Coral assemblage that you have put together and you are adding to your products, has that been tested for bioactivity in the human bodies? Or I would assume so.
Cool.
I'm very curious what effects it might have.
Yeah, no, that's that. So the question was, is it safe for people? Is that really what you're talking about? Yeah.
If there's any activity at all, I assume it's safe.
Yeah, gotcha. I haven't done like human physiological tests, if that's what you're asking. I will say that the ingredients that we're using are popularly sold in health food stores and are very good for you. So if you happen to get extra in there, it's going to boost your immune system and help you feel a little better, give you a little more energy. They're more energetic than anything. And then it uses our base sunscreen, which is EWG verified, and all of the ingredients in there are safe for. Again, going back to my background, the first skincare company that I had was all for people with really bad skin. So it was a therapeutic skincare company for kids with eczema, psoriasis, and a lot of that has fallen over with Stream to Sea. So people with extremely sensitive skin usually find they don't have any issues with our products. Great question. Thank you. Hi, Randy.
Okay. I'm going to start back here and
Never
then
mind,
work my way up.
Randy. Wait your turn, Randy. Wait your turn.
Can we start? All right. Thanks, Jill, and thank you, Autumn. I have a whole list of questions, but I'll try to keep it short to just two.
All right.
So I guess my first one is a practical one. I don't usually care about expiration dates.
Yeah.
But I actually would like your opinion and input on expiration dates in general for chemical and mineral sunscreens. Can you advise us on that a little bit? Because I've got a whole cabinet full of them.
Yep, you bet. Okay, so the question is expiration dates on chemical and mineral sunscreen products. So first, looking at the chemical sunscreen products, the organic active ingredients do degrade. So typically a manufacturer, if it says, remember that slide that showed the 33% actives, they probably started with about 50. Because by the time that it hits that 2 or 3 year expiration date, they're going to degrade. And according to FDA standards, if I say that it's 3 years, I have to prove that in 3 years, I still have that 33% in there. So the chemical ingredients, as soon as they're exposed to heat or UV radiation, UV light, funny, starts to degrade. For those, it is extremely important. The other thing is the period after opening date. You sometimes see on European products a PAO symbol with a little circle in it. We don't require that in the US. Some companies, ours, we have it. Some companies will put on their labels, look for it. That is, if you test once it's been open and exposed to light and such, that also changes the stability profile. And usually about 6 to 12 months after you open something, you should throw it away, especially if it's chemical active. On the mineral side, zinc and titanium don't degrade, right? They don't degrade. It's not going, heat it, do all of that, that's fine. The carrier that it's in absolutely can degrade. So like in our case, we use a lot of vegetable oils. Vegetable oils after time will start to go rancid. So when we launch a new product, we start with a 2-year expiration date. After it's been on the market for 3 years and we have real life stability, you can do accelerated stability that takes 90 days in an incubator and that replicates 3 years. We start with 2. Once we have the real life 3-year stability, we test it again. And if it's still good and not rancid, we'll increase it to 3 years. What I really say is if you pull out the lotion and it's a mineral and it's still a lotion, it's not a gloppy glop, right? So you put it on and if it's still nice and smooth and it doesn't stink, it's not rancid, I would use it.
Thank you. That's really, really helpful. And then my second question is, last time I saw you at DEMA, we were chatting about coral care.
Right.
And you had mentioned that the study hadn't come out for peer review from
Yeah.
Dr. Sweet. Has it come out yet for peer review? Because I cannot wait to read
Nope.
the study.
I've been told that it's probably going to be about 18 months minimum before it is actually published.
Okay, then I'll continue sitting tight.
Did we publish the whole thing on there? We don't. We have the phase 1 that is on our site that you can read and it shares more. And we didn't have that at DEMA. So we have a little bit more data that he's been willing to let us give out to the world. You're very welcome.
So years ago, we talked before SharkCon when there was a company that was sued by the state of California because their sunscreen they claimed was friendly was not.
Oh, the company that sued me?
Yeah,
Right,
that,
okay,
that
sorry,
one.
Sorry, that was
but
inside.
anyway,
That was my inside voice. Sorry.
Sorry, I didn't. But is that happening with other states and other companies?
Yeah.
Like, I just kind of wanted an update because it's interesting that we don't see that background side of it, that maybe somebody can force their hands because they lose a lawsuit,
Right.
you know, to make stuff happen.
So a small company, the question was, is litigation happening? The companies that are doing the blue washing that are blatantly saying that they're reef safe or reef friendly, a lot of the reef safe claims have changed to reef friendly. And it goes back to what's the definition of reef safe or reef friendly. I mean, I think we say sometimes we're reef friendly. So, but that's become negative. So people are starting to think if it says reef friendly, that means it's marketing fluff and you shouldn't use it. You got to read your ingredients. So is litigation happening? Absolutely. Alba Organics is one of the top brands that's in the health food stores. They use avobenzone and octocrylene, and they're being sued. Banana Boat, Hawaiian Tropic, pretty much all of them are undergoing some form of litigation or settling, as far as what I've seen. There's one ingredient that I think is going to sneak up on us, and I'm seeing it in a lot of the natural and the mineral formulas, and it's called butyl-octyl salicylate. And I talk about that quite a bit. It's a long word, but I affectionately refer to it as BS because it's pretty much octocrylene. It's like one molecule off from octocrylene. It does a great job taking your mineral 30 and boosting it up to a 50 with this ingredient, because what are you doing? You're throwing octocrylene in it. That would do it too. But you're finding that hidden and it's in the inactive ingredient. So it's buried down. But that's one of the ones that I'm starting to see some activity on that too. And I'm happy to see it.
Can you say that one again?
BS. Sorry. Butyl-octyl, and that's one word, butyl-octyl salicylate. The salicylate separate. Thank you. Yeah, you're welcome.
Hi, Adam. Of the 4 species that were tested, are any of them some of the species that we have here in the Keys, and has there been field testing done?
Okay, so good question. So of the species that have been tested, are there any that are in the Keys? Yes. I can't tell you the names because it's, again, beyond my pay grade. I can't pronounce them. It's very loud. It's very long, and I'm sure Ken will help educate me at some point. It's on our website, but there are 2 species that are in the tropical waters. And the other was, are there any field trials? Okay, so I love this question. So some people will say the reef safe science is BS because it's not been done in the field. So what I would like to say is, should we go dump 1,000 tons of sunscreen on molasses reef to really tell if it's going to hurt something? Because we've done it, right? There's, lots of tourists, we've all seen it, and we see what's happening out there. So no, there's no real field trials, and I wouldn't support them if they wanted to do it, because I think that's bad news. Thank you. Great question.
Sorry. That's all right. So what do I tell my relatives in Oklahoma
Yeah.
that are not on the ocean
Cool.
that they should still use reef safe sunscreen? Why?
So I started my company before Reef Safe became a thing, and I called it Stream to Sea because all streams lead to the sea. So there's that. There's the other part of it is reef safer usually means safer for us too. So if you don't want to care about the reefs or the downstream, care about yourself, care about your kids. We could do a whole training and talk about the endocrine disrupting chemicals and the fact that if you expose male fish to these ingredients, they turn female. If you expose male rats to these ingredients, their testes shrink. If you expose a female rat that is pregnant to these ingredients, they end up having very feminine boy offspring. So it's working on. I mean it. He said it on me. He said it.
All right. All right. Settle down now.
All right.
So I'm going to take the priority of the last question, which is to ask you, as a Women Divers Hall of Fame member, and in recognition of today being International Women in STEM Day, if you have any words of advice or inspiration or encouragement to say to younger women in STEM about caring for the ocean.
I love that. I think that if we have the opportunity to do better, we must, right? There is hope. There's always hope. And it takes a different mindset. It takes a mind that's different from mine and Ken's. I mean, what's next? The great ideas aren't going to come from us, I don't think. I mean, we'll continue to have good ideas, but perhaps it's you that will come up with the next thing that's going to turn the tide. Keep going, keep moving. There's a lot to learn, and I look forward to learning from you and with you. So do it. Just do it.
Thank you. One more. You have a question? Okay.
Locally in the Keys, where can we find this?
Yes. I like it. I like it. So Stream to Sea is found. Where can you find our products locally? Most dive centers do carry us, and if they don't, please go in and ask for us. Be like, what is the matter with you? Come on. Please ask for us. Coral Care is new, our website as well. However, I do like to support local. We do sell on our website. Before you can check out, it will take you to a store locator to show you if there's somebody close by that you can buy it from. Because, I mean, we'll send it to you. If it's far away, please buy our stuff. But
Is anybody locally selling Coral Care?
so I think Horizon Divers might be the only one that has it yet.
What about Reef?
I don't think Reef has it yet.
Sunscreen
They don't
at the
have it
moment.
yet. CRF has some. Yeah. Rainbow Reef, I don't think has Coral Care yet. Yeah. So please ask for it. That will help us grow. That's how we grow. You guys asking for it. So thank you.
Autumn, we'd like to thank you on behalf of, this is truly, when we say fish and friends, sometimes it's a bit, but this is really about being friends to fish with this talk and all the information that you've given. I'd like to present you with this very special limited edition
Thank you. I love
certificate. And
Can I hug you? Thank you.
And thank you to all of you for being here. Please don't forget to take some of the wonderful samples at Autumn, to leave some so that everybody gets one, please. And our next talk is in March, Fish of the Galapagos, all the things happening around here. Thank you to each and every one of you for being here this evening, and have a good evening. Bye.
Thanks, Dawn.